Hi there, Sandra here from the Schwowin's Nest. Thanks for joining me today. My first project is using these Dollar Tree wood planks. These are the square ones. They come 6 in a pack. And I'm also using some of the little mini wood cubes that are also available at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to hot glue 4 of the squares onto 2 of the planks. These 2 planks are going to be on the inside of another piece of wood. So I decided to do the gluing of these and then paint them. I'm using Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint in the color Parisian Gray. I'm also painting some additional planks, just 2 and just on the one side, because these are going to be the interior components of the layers that I'm creating. While I wait for my wood pieces to dry, I'm taking this extra piece of floral stem. This is just a wire stem that's been covered with paper. I'm going to just trim off a piece and then I'm going to cover it with a couple of layers of masking tape. I'm going to bend this wire to form a half circle. Then once I've got my shape, I'm going to take the ends and bend them in at a 90-degree angle as you see me doing here. Using my snips, I'm just going to trim off the edges. I only want about 1/4 of an inch on each side because that is what I'm going to use to stick in my little block that you can see here on the table. The block's already been painted white, and my idea is to create a little handle for the top of the lantern. I'm drilling 1 hole on either side of this wooden cube, and I just want to make sure that my little corners here, my little 90-degree angles, are going to fit right inside of that. Using some hot glue, I'm just going to put some glue into the hole and then push each end of the little wire that I created into it, and that will create my little top handle. Next, I'm going to start assembling the sides of the lantern, and I'm using some of these larger tumbling tower blocks. These I picked up at my Dollarama store, and they're about twice the size of the Dollar Tree ones. So they're really awesome for making lanterns and using them for other wood projects. I'm going to glue 2 of them together, and I'm going to need 4. So I'll just use some hot glue, push the ends together, and it's going to have a pretty solid hold. I'm going to paint these 4 pieces with the same paint. It's the Parisian Gray from Folk Art. I really love this paint. I can't say enough about it. I'm not sponsored or anything. I have just found from experience and using it that it really covers well with one coat. It's super thick and the texture of it and the coverage is amazing. Now that the initial planks are dry, I'm taking some dark gray paint, and this is also a folk art paint. It's their Maui Gray. It's about a charcoal color. And I'm taking a dry brush and I'm just going to distress the inside. I don't have to do it perfectly because you're really not going to see it, but I wanted it to have the same effect of what I'm going to be doing on the outside. So I'll do that to all 4 of the planks. So what I didn't record was me gluing the top plank onto the bottom plank. So the painted surfaces are on the inside, as you see, and that's what I wanted to do first. So now that I've got everything glued together, I'm going to go ahead and give both top and bottom a coat of paint. Using some black chalk paint, I'm going to take my little handle and I'm going to paint that completely black as well. I really like how the masking tape gave it a little bit of texture. It almost has a wood appearance, but it is going to look more like metal when I'm done with it. So I've taken one of these planks that I've put together with the little cubes, and this is the bottom. It's still raw wood. I'm taking some beads, and they're just some beads that I picked up from the dollar store in a bundle, and I'm going to hot glue them in place in all 4 corners, and these are going to become the feet of my lantern. Now I'm going to start gluing the sides of the lantern, and I'm working with the top section. You can see that the bottom with the little bead feet is just sitting off to the side. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my side pieces on. And I decided to put them on an angle in the corner. I wanted this lantern to have a little bit more of a modern farmhouse look to it, and I thought this would be a little more unique. Now that I've glued these on, I'm going to go ahead and give the bottom plank, which is actually the bottom of the top a coat of the Parisian grape paint as well. What I'm trying to do is, if at all possible, glue raw wood to raw wood. It just has more of a secure hold. Once you start putting paint on the wood, you're gluing to the paint, and you never know. Sometimes things might pop off, might come apart, loosen up. I have had that happen to some smaller projects, and I'm just trying my very best to make sure that I just use raw materials first and then paint them. There are circumstances where that's not possible, and that's okay. You just do the best you can with what you have. I'm also going to paint the bottom section where the beads are, but I won't be painting the beads. They're going to get a coat of black paint in a little bit. Now I'm going to distress all of the pieces that aren't distressed yet with my dry brushing technique and the charcoal gray like I showed you earlier. Using the black chalk paint that I used for the cube and the ring at the top, I'm going to go ahead with a real small brush and give these beads a couple of coats. Using the same charcoal paint on the dry brush, I'm just going to go ahead and distress the block and the handle a little bit. So here's a situation where I need to glue on top of paint, and it's probably going to be okay because I have very little paint on there. And I'm just going to center the little block right on the top part of the lantern. The last thing to do is to add some glue to the bottom part of the lantern and then glue the top part on top. It was a little tricky trying to line up all four of those angles at the same time, but I got it done. I'm really happy with how this lantern turned out. It's super cute because it's only about 8 inches high. My next project is redoing this metal tray that I use in my kitchen for my dish soap and hand soap and that kind of thing. I wanted it to look a little bit more farmhouse. So I've just pulled off those handles on the side. I don't have to worry about the holes because you're really not going to see it, but I just want to make sure there aren't any sharp edges. This is held up pretty good with just some chalk paint and Mod Podge, but I decided to give it a coat of Tremclad Rust paint, which is an oil-based paint, and that will make sure that it doesn't get bubbly and stuff with all the moisture being around it. I'm going to use this paper as a guide, and I'm just tracing around the shape with a red pen so I can see how big I'm going to be able to make my crate. Here I'm drawing the shape of my crate on the template. I want to make sure that there's going to be enough room on the sides to put in some support pieces and that it's going to slide in very easily. So here I'm just kind of dry fitting how I want the crate to be. I'm using these tumbling tower blocks that are a large set from Walmart and these little bamboo sticks that were an oops purchase on Amazon. I neglected to see how tiny they were. I thought they were much bigger. They are very cool though. They're about 15 inches in length and they actually are flexible. So I might be able to do some round projects with these. I'm going to go ahead and cut a few more to make sure I have the height I need. And then I'm going to start gluing the tumbling tower blocks on top of the bamboo sticks because those are going to be my corner braces. I am using a generous amount of hot glue because I want to make sure that the braces stick really well and hold those pieces of bamboo together nice and snug. So this is what the side wall is going to look like. I just need to add a few more pieces of bamboo. Here I'm just fitting the container in to make sure it's going to fit and taking some measurements so I can cut the pieces for the end walls. I've got the side walls sitting on the ends, and now I'm just going to take each individual piece of the bamboo and glue it making sure that it's nice and straight. I'm going to have to do a little finagling with my hands here and make sure that I get it all standing up really well, but it wasn't that difficult to do. Once I got the first piece of bamboo glued on, it was pretty easy to just go ahead and finish the rest. I didn't have to really worry too much about the position of it because it was already being held in place. Here's how the crate looks so far. I really like the look of it. I'm going to be putting some side supports because bamboo is quite flexible and I wanted to have 3 supports on either side. The end pieces don't need any support because they were quite sturdy. They were much shorter. So I'm just going to use some hot glue and some smaller pieces of the bamboo sticks and support the sides. Here I'm just checking again to make sure that I'm going to be able to get that container right inside. I didn't want to have to create a bottom for this crate, so I'm using 2 of the Dollar Tree tumbling tower blocks, which are the smaller ones, and I'm going to hot glue them on either side of the tray. Then I'm going to be able to take that block and hot glue it to the inside of the crate. I'm going to put some more hot glue on the outside of each of those blocks, and then I'm going to slide that crate right on top. And I'm just going to have to work a little quick to make sure that the hot glue doesn't set, but it turns out perfect. I thought about making some handles out of rope, but then I thought, well, I'm going to have to either glue them on or drill a hole through, and I didn't want to do that. And with it being in the kitchen, if the rope gets wet, it might get ugly. Anyhow, I decided to take another one of the larger blocks and then just glue that on as a handle on each side of the crate. I'm going to give the inside, the outside, and everything a couple of coats of white chalk paint. Now that the paint is all dry, I'm going to do some dry brushing and distressing. I'm using a chip brush with some black chalk paint, and I'm just going to flick it around the edges and then drag my brush all the way across the front. I hope you like these farmhouse wood DIY projects. If you did, I'd love for you to stick around and see what I'm up to. Hit that subscribe button. Those 2 black arrows will show you exactly where to click. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. See you in the next one.